Hi there, I'm Rod Bergeron, and today we're here at the St. Joseph's Villa Community Gardens in Cobourg, Ontario, and we're going to have a look at this pine tree behind me that's sort of rotted and old. So let's have a look at it. One of the things that I'm really interested in helping my students do is increase their skill development. So whether that be um, increasing um, how it is they put paint on the page or how it is they draw. I'm really interested in them increasing their skill development. And one of the ways that we do that is repetition. You just need to do it over and over and over again till you get to the point where you're starting to get good at it. And drawing is the basis of all art. And if you don't believe me, look at somebody who's a really poor draftsperson and look at their painting. Chances are their painting isn't as good as it could be. So I'm really interested in people increasing their skill in drawing, and that skill in drawing will translate into skill in sculpture or skill in painting. So with this old pine tree today, I want you to just think about looking at the picture of it. We'll put the picture of it back up again here. So you see it's rotted out on the bottom. It's got some very, very dead branches. The entire top of it is missing. But let's do a quick little thumbnail sketch of this. I think today, for this particular thing, I'm going to turn my page portrait. And I'm going to use a black Sharpie pen again. And this is just a little sketchbook that I use for my YouTube videos. Remember, trees grow from the ground up, and this one is no exception. The other thing about trees is they have a lot of branches coming off, especially this one has branches that are coming off that are hanging almost all the way down to the ground. So I think you should really consider how those branches come off to the ground. And there's no top, so above this, this is all just rotted up here. And I'm going to put that in some very sketchy lines. There's a couple of branches that come off here and begin to hang down right off the bat. There's one that's further back in here. Most of these have nothing on them, or very little on them. I think I'm going to have to make this a little bit smaller in the final piece. Actually, my page here, the page that I'm going to work on is quite a bit wider, so but I just want to get sort of where it is each one of these branches are going to come off. So one of the skill developments that I'm talking about is looking at the object, drawing a line, looking at the object, drawing a line, and just continuing that all the way down. There's some large holes where branches used to be on this tree. There's an entire section here that is rotted out, and I'm going to just cross hatch that in. This branch right here actually comes out and hangs all the way down to the ground. Remember the video that I posted a couple of weeks ago where I drew the long lines from the bottom up to the top? You can do the same thing with branches, making the branches come from the tree hanging down over top of one another. And that's certainly what's happening here. We have there's a big branch that comes out like this and then turns and hangs down this way. Another one here that comes up and hangs down, and very like a spidery kind of lines that come out like that. So I've sort of chosen already that I'm not going to paint this today, or I don't think I'm going to paint it today, but this is all grass down here. and right behind that is Lake Ontario. But I don't think I'm going to put, might put some long grass growing out here, but probably not a whole lot. So that's my thumbnail. Okay, so I want my tree to be left of center, because that's the way that I normally put trees in, which is left of center. And I know that this is a 1/3 line, this is a 1/3 line, about a third, about a third, about a third, about a third, and probably a third and a third. So sort of on this 1/3 line is where I want my main trunk of my tree to be. And I'm going to put this tree on in some long lines. So it does that, and then it does this, and then it does this, and this, and then it does this. Alright, and that's pretty much, these branches are going to come off. These branches are fairly long on my sketch. They're much longer than this, so these branches are actually going to come off here, and these ones are going to hang down into this area. So I'm going to start with that, actually, this large branch here that's going to come out like this, and then it's going to weep down to the ground and then curve back up. There's another one here that's going to come down like this and then curve back up, and there's a third one here, and I'm just putting in the main branches right now, and this one's going to come down and curve back up. Of course, here we're going to have another knot on our tree. So now I'm putting in much more detail than I ever had on my sketch. I'm looking at each individual knot and where each individual branch is going to. There's a lot of light on this tree right now, but the whole bottom of pretty much the bottom of each and every branch is dark. So you want to find some way to tell that piece of the story also. This one has sort of a long thing coming down like this, and then up here there's a couple of short little ones, and then there's one long one that comes out a long ways out here. And it's just like a single stick. There's not another little branch on it anywhere. I'm going to come back here and put in this. There's some rot that comes down along here, and down this way, and this is very dark inside here, so I think I'm going to put some hatching on that right from the very beginning. Over on this side is quite a tangled mess of branches, and we're going to make them come right off the page. There's also one that's here that's broken off also. And this comes out like this and turns almost like a that far up. I wonder that quite often, how is it that this tree is supporting that particular branch in that particular place? I often wonder that. I'm sure people listening to me are thinking to myself, I'm fairly certain that you wonder a lot of things that the rest of us don't wonder about. I'm okay with that. This is coming along not too bad at all here. So there's a couple of places here where there's these giant, once was a branch, but now the branch is long gone, but there's these knots all the way up this thing. Okay, so that was a little bit of time lapse there for me to collapse some of that down for you. I've got most of this on here. I want to start to talk about, making some curvature on here. And the way I think about this tree is curving these lines in this direction. All right, and so you should think about, which direction it is that I want to curve my lines out of this tree. How is it that I think this tree curves? And then start putting your hatching on in that direction. I also think this one curves out of this hole that's here. Something like this. And I think we'll time lapse some of this so you don't have to watch me put in a million little Okay, so I've got quite a bit of that hatching in there, and I think I'm going to start to consider some of these smaller branches. And by consider it, I mean I'm going to revisit them with a double line. And when you double up your line, what you're really saying is that you're making a stronger statement about where it is that that thing is hanging down to or from. And a double line really gives your drawing a lot more mass. So you'll see that that starts to look thicker, but it also starts to look, I guess a word that I use quite often is crankier. It starts to look older, more used, more rougher than it might if you had just a single line on it. Okay, so I'm kind of liking, the crankiness, like I said, of this and how it's, it's starting to look a little bit more thicker, more used, I guess. I don't know if used is the word. It's looking more like the tree that I'm thinking it is, I guess. So I'm going to hatch in some of this here, and I'm going to make this hatching going in a different direction than the previous hatching, and it's going to cross over in a few places, and that will make it a little bit darker and a little bit more it'll give it a little bit more depth. And I want this to be very dark inside here, so I'm going to cross hatch this again all the way down along there. The other thing that I think I can do on this tree is I can give it a little bit of stippling, and I think if we stipple in a little bit of this, you'll start to see that it'll give this tree a little bit more texture to it. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here, and I'm going to stipple this, and we'll time lapse it so you can see me. going to put some grass in down here across the bottom of this tree. It's very green out here right now, so I think a little bit of grass here might add to that. And in behind this there are some other trees, and I'm going to put those on here in pen, but very lightly. I'm just sort of guiding the pen across the page, but I'm not putting any weight onto the pen at all. And just letting it barely make a line. There's a tree in the background here, and there's some more grass that's coming across here in a very faint way. I'm going to let that just go across the page like this. Same on this side. Across the front here there's quite a bit of shadow that's coming out like this, and I'm going to denote some of that coming out across the front here. Sort of like that. I think that's what it is that I'm going for in this particular drawing. And I'm sure many of you have heard me say that before also, about this is what I'm going for, because this is my drawing, this is my version of this tree. This is nobody else's version of this tree, this is mine. And I want you to paint the things the way that you think them, and I want you to draw and create art in the way that you think about the things that around you are in your environment. So that's it for this one. I think I'm done. So this has been Rod Bergeron, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it. If you did learn something from it, please give me a thumbs up or a liked. And if you're a subscriber, I thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you again.